The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia, and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.
Welcome to AI for Good, the leading action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by ITU, in partnership with 40 UN sister organizations, and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to identify practical applications of AI to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and scale those solutions for global impact. In today's session, we're counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished panelists and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from me as well. I am Guilherme Martinez Roura from the International Telecommunication Union, and I would like to welcome you all for joining today's AI for Good event, a global view of current practices for children and digital environments. This session is a special event held during the World's Children's Day on the 20th of November and has its focus on children's rights in the era of AI, bringing together experts and young voices to explore advancements, ethics, and inclusion with an emphasis on participation from the Global South. Together, we hope that this session will inspire us all for responsible and inclusive innovation for all children in the world. I would like to thank all the panelists that are joining us today, but as always, we are counting on you, the participants, to help create a very interactive session. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator today and one of the organizers. Her name is Vicky Charisi, and she is a research fellow at Harvard University Berkman Klein Center, working at the intersection of child development, AI, children's rights in education. Vicky, welcome, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guillermo, and thanks to the ITU for this opportunity to celebrate today's special day, the World Children's Day. This is special for all our panelists, and not only us, but I think for all over the world, the people that work to make children's life and children's well-being, and especially for the digital spaces to make them a better place for children to develop. Today with my co-organizers, Professor Selma Sabanovic and Judith Okonkwo, we will have the honor to facilitate this session. And in principle, we have 3 panels, one on that will talk about the role of the industry, one on policy making, and one on scientific evidence on the impact of artificial intelligence on children's development. In addition, we have tried to bring together some children. We won't have them live here, so they prepared videos for us, and we will have them during the session. This day, the World Children's Day was established in 1954 by the United Nations, and it is an opportunity to bring all people together and to create awareness about children's rights. So please join me in this special day and enjoy the session today. I will give the floor to Selma Sabanovic, my co-organizer now, to give some more details about the session. Selma, you are muted.
Of course, I had to do that. Thank you, Vicky. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited, just as Vicky said, about celebrating this day with you and also thinking about AI and children's rights together. One of the aims of today's session is to give a holistic view of both the opportunities and challenges of emerging AI technologies for children. So what I'm looking forward to hearing our colleagues from academia talk about some of the scientific evidence on the impact of AI on children's development, our colleagues from industry giving us a perspective on real-world best practices, and policymakers to talk about strategic decision-making. I also hope, as Guilhem mentioned, that you all are going to enjoy and join us in the discussions. So I'm going to give the floor to Judith so she can tell us a little bit about what we can expect from the children's participation.
Thank you so much, Salma. As my co-organizers have said, it's such a pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Judith Okonkwo. I am an ecosystem developer for the immersive technologies across the African continent. And really, I think when we think about the impact of these technologies on the lives of children, we cannot even begin to truly quantify what we foresee. And so it's a real pleasure today to not only have experts from industry and academia talking about these technologies, but also, of course, the children who are at the heart of this very discussion and who, of course, are the future of anything we put into place when it comes to these technologies, whether it's from a government or regulatory perspective. And so today, we're very pleased to have children joining us from Mexico, Nigeria, and Greece, who will take us into their worlds and tell us a little bit about the ways in which technology impacts them and what they hope to see for the future. We are about to dive right into the very first of these interventions from children. And I am pleased to present an intervention from children in Mexico who, along with their coordinator, will talk about their visions for technology in ways that impact their everyday lives. So you'll hear a little bit about the things they focus on in their families and their communities and their hopes for technology in relation to that. So I'll hand over now for the video to be played. Thank you.
أني نانولك باترشيك إن شوبنا باترشيك كان زبال أني باترشيك تاشو أني ملابشيك أشي تشكل هاتين تكلم ويت أن تأشيك هاتين تكملشيك هاتولها هاتشيك إن شوبنا شيك باترشيك إن شوبنا وملابين تكمل هوني تلقى هاتين تكمل أني نوهلتي أكيشمون عشان تكابتشيك أن ميملاب هاتين تكالشيك أني نوهلشيك أني حياة تكمل فوني libro itil chukus pero ya chukus toko mukus أني هاتولة كباترشيك أن ميملاب شيك باترشيك إن إسلا هانتيني تشكر عشان واسطة ويت إتشيك إن إتو شيك باتلان سبال أبل حاجات كين إشوبنا Naubi Neymar Rojas Bernabé en Guajil Alancuenchal el aguacate Aquismón San Luis Potosí a lo cual Belebutamu en Cautenec. En mi comunidad las personas hablan la lengua Tenec y mi papá y mi mamá me enseñaron a hablarlo muy bien y lo que a mí me gusta hacer es ir al campo a traer la leña para que mi mamá haga la comida. Y me gustaría que todas las personas del mundo vieran la lengua Tenec y la cultura Tenec a través de las tecnologías y computadoras y del teléfono móvil. Anenekchik, Nana Ubi Yoselin, Ukwal la Jujun Itamu, Ukwenchal Inbi al Uk, Aji Akichmon, Tampotot, Laptom, Chaval. Bueno, mi tema se va a tratar sobre la pintura. A mí me gusta mucho pintar y sé que esto representaría mi vida, porque desde pequeña descubrí que este era mi talento. Cuando descubrí mi talento, supe que es lo que tenía que hacer. Entonces, desde ese día he comenzado a practicar toda mi pintura. He pintado en cartón, en unicel y en palos. También me gusta mucho pintar. Hasta he pintado portadas en los libros que he hecho. En quinto hice un libro y lo pinté yo. En sexto ahora pinté otro. Y eso es lo que más me alegra hacer. Incluso he practicado mis dibujos para hacerlo. Y también he ayudado a mis papás a hacer publicidades para que los demás lo vean y quieran comprar a mi casa. Entonces, me gusta mucho pintar y también sé que puedo seguir mejorando y que tal vez de grande pueda ser una gran artista. Y sé que la tecnología me ayudará mucho a mí y a los demás para que vean mi arte en todas partes. Como aquí en la escuela hay una antena de señal de celular y sé que en los celulares, en las computadoras, aparecerá mi arte, porque si la tecnología me pudiera ayudar, representaría a mi comunidad y a las mujeres que viven aquí. Por eso yo vengo representando a mi comunidad. Vengo vestida así porque es el traje de mi comunidad y me gusta mucho representar a mi comunidad. Me alegra muchísimo. Por eso hago todo este arte. Que todas las personas vean mi arte y me van a ayudar y querrán ver más, saber más sobre mí. Entonces, por eso sigo pintando y seguiré mejorando, ya que puedo seguir avanzando en mi vida. Tal vez pueda ser mi carrera.
Mi nombre es Magalia Rojas Martínez, trabajo en la localidad de La Brecha Tanzosop, en una escuela de primaria indígena multigrado. Esta localidad pertenece al municipio de Aquismón, San Luis Potosí. Es un reto para nosotros porque el contexto de educación indígena aquí en La Brecha pues es algo complicado debido a la economía de los alumnos, de los padres de familia, tecnológicas, ¿verdad? Pues no contamos con suficientes computadoras, con un internet para toda la localidad, pero afortunadamente, ¿verdad? Pues aquí en la escuela cuenta con ese servicio. Lo utilizamos dentro del salón, fuera del salón, y pues esto nos sirve también para que ellos pues puedan fortalecer también parte de sus usos y costumbres a través de imágenes, de videos que pudieran grabar ellos también, revitalizar parte de lo que son sus conocimientos ancestrales, sí. Pues ya en cuestión de contenidos dentro del salón, pues bueno, hemos vinculado mucho las actividades comunitarias con padres de familia, alumnos y docentes, sí. Este ha sido un trabajo muy bueno, le digo más que nada en escuelas de multigrado donde atendemos más de 2 grupos, los más grandes le enseñan a los más chicos y pues aprendemos todos de todos dentro del salón. Algunas actividades pues se llevan a casa, algunas investigaciones se hacen en casa.
Thank you. So with this video, we had the opportunity to see children from Mexico, indigenous children from Mexico, to describe their own daily activities and how they hope technology will help them connect with the rest of the world. In the next next session, the next panel, we will have people from industry. We all know how big or smaller companies influence children's everyday life, providing opportunities for novel activities, novel ways of play or learn, but also the responsibility that they have, these companies, to create these safe spaces for children, providing all the security for them to develop in a safe way. So for this session, we have two exemplar speakers. First, I wanted to welcome Adam Engel, who is the global lead of digital policy at Lego Group, a big company who has influenced children for many years now. Adam, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Vicky. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on what is really such an important topic. I think really when we consider AI at the Lego Group and we consider the role of industry, it's about building AI in a really child-centric way. One thing that I think everyone is seized of is the importance, the transformational capability of artificial intelligence. But I think what is paid less attention to is the potential implications for children when they have this new interface for connecting with the world. Its design features, its design choices will radically or could radically change the skills that they need to develop to interface with the world, how they understand and interact with the world. And I think companies have a responsibility to examine how AI is embedded into child-facing services, so they can really ensure that when they are designing these things that are confronting children, the children's best interests are baked into the design itself. So we're trying to pioneer a child-centric philosophy to all kinds of digital design, but particularly to this new field of AI. While we're not kind of moving to deploy any AI-facing services to children just yet, what we really do want is people to just step back a little bit and think, okay, how do we do this in a way that actually unlocks children's well-being and really focuses on the needs of children? And to do that first, you need to understand. We need to do the research. We need to do the work to build those connections between this facet of AI, this capability here. This might affect children's emotional capabilities, their creative capacity, how they build competence and develop skills and play, which is what Lego is really about. How do they learn through play, and how do they use AI to learn through play? So we're actually at the Lego Group funding some initiatives and supporting some initiatives which are examining this interface between children and AI. And for example, we're launching today on World Children's Day a partnership with the Alan Turing Research, which is looking at what generative AI means for child well-being, and that is looking at all these different aspects of what it means for a child to have digital well-being and how AI plays a role in that. So that's really important. I think that's the first point I want to make is the need for understanding and research in this space, so companies can develop the right type of tools for children, whether they're explicit for children or whether they're just likely to be used by children. But they protect children in a way and they enhance children's well-being when they interact with AI. Now, this concept of well-being in general is really important because much of the policy discussion right now, much of the discussion around AI, much of the discussion around social media is about harms. It's about online safety and it's about children's privacy, which are two really, really important issues. But children are digital natives now. They are going to be, and they are on digital facing services. They are using AI in classrooms. They're using AI to socialize. They're using AI to learn and play. So if they're already doing this, it's not just about harm mitigation and it's not just about preserving privacy. We still need to do that. But we also need to think about, well, if they're interfacing with these services, if they're using these things on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and that trend is just going to increase, then we need to think about a society about, well, what are the positive aspects? How can we actually design these tools, design these services in a way that amplifies their development, that helps them grow and helps them thrive. So the research that we're doing with the Turing Institute, but also kind of our interest in this more broadly, is actually based on some work that we've done with UNICEF. It's called Responsible Innovation and Technology with Children, or RITEC. And really, that project was, a 3-year long research initiative which looked at 787 children in 18 different countries and what digital well-being meant for them. So it looked at things like emotional regulation, it looked at things like creativity, it looked at things like competence, it looked at things like obviously online safety and privacy, and these kind of core pillars of what it means to have a positive digital environment, to have a well-being embedded into digital services that ultimately helps children thrive. So that research, it started with understanding what digital well-being could be, and then it started with surveying children and working with them to see their exact experiences with online games and how that contributed to their well-being. And now, just yesterday, it's actually developed to launching a toolkit for businesses so they can design digital services and online games in a way that actually meets all these different pillars, the creativity, the emotional regulation, the competence, those things I just discussed. So we're trying to build this holistic idea of, okay, digital well-being, what does that mean for children? We're trying to give, with UNICEF and other partners, businesses the tools to then embed that design philosophy into their services. So ultimately, at the end of the day, children and parents can be confident that then when they are engaging with AI-facing services, AI services, they have the trust that they have the best interests of children in mind. So our interest in AI is kind of built in that RITEC philosophy, built in that well-being by design philosophy. And we're really excited to see where it goes. But it's early days, and AI is obviously changing and morphing on a monthly basis almost. And we need to kind of keep up with the curve there. We need to keep on examining what does the next iteration of AI, what challenges and opportunities does it present for children, and then how do we actually, almost try to get ahead of the curve and ensure that that child-centric approach, that philosophy, is embedded in industry and digital platforms that are building these things for children. So that's the kind of external picture. But I think one thing, it's all very well and good to say these are the North Stars, but the cultural change kind of needs to happen within industry to start off with. You need the kind of governance processes, you need the cultural sensibilities within a firm, within a business, that helps you kind of place children at the center of the design. So it kind of gets a little bit boring, but you do need child rights experts that are commenting and reviewing different products, and that need just becomes even more acute when you have kind of novel technologies that are involved in these things like AI. You also need a really deep sense of what good compliance looks like, but also child participation and feedback into the design. So it's not good enough just to say, we believe that children will interact with AI in this kind of way, therefore we will build it like that. You actually need to embed the children's perspectives and children's voices. So you need to find a responsible way that safeguards children, but also make sure that their perspectives are kind of embedded in the design process as well. So that's kind of what we really want to see in AI and how it's interfacing with children. And that's the kind of challenge that we're putting towards kind of the broader industry is how do you do this well? How do you do this responsibly? And how do you consider their well-being from the onset? Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you very much, Adam. This was an excellent intervention where we understood that, of course, children's participation is very important, but as you said, it's not only about children's privacy or safety online, but also the responsibility that big companies or smaller companies have on how to design these tools for the effect that they will have in the future. Thank you very much, Adam, for the intervention. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Judith Okonkwo, who is also one of the organizers of this workshop, but also she's the founder of a company in Nigeria. Judith, the floor is yours. You can tell us about the amazing work you're doing in Nigeria, but globally as well.
Thank you very much, Vicky. So if you'll all just give me a minute, I have some slides to share and I'll pull them up.
Judith, if you're talking, you're muted. Please make sure that you unmute yourself.
Okay, confirming everyone can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Apologies for that. All right, so I wanted to go ahead and talk about one of the ways that we foresee AI having a huge impact on the African continent. And as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of work in the immersive technologies, and one of the areas that has really been exciting for us is the convergence of these technologies with artificial generative intelligence and all that it can offer us. So I just want to give you an example of a use case that we have been exploring since 2017, which is education in Nigeria. I don't know how many of you in the audience are familiar with Nigeria, but one thing that I will say, if you do know the country and its educational system at the moment, is that really it is not fit for purpose for our children. Nigeria, unfortunately, is known to have the highest number of out-of-school children for any one country in the world. Alongside that, rapid population growth has meant that the burden on sort of like education and the infrastructure that exists is really overwhelming. It has not kept pace. And that means that the quality of education that we're able to offer our children is really not the standard we want. Learning outcomes are not what we would expect. And the question has always been, what can we do to make sure that we are, getting our children closer to SDG 4 in country? And to give you a sense of kind of like what we're talking about, I mean, Nigeria is a country with over 210 million people. It's quite a young population. As you can see there, with 44% age 14 and below. But like I said, learning outcomes are a real problem across board. And in the public school system, which is where the majority of our children are educated, the facilities are really basic. So it will be chairs, tables, and a black or whiteboard. Really, that's it. Much like you can see in this classroom in a school where we do quite a bit of work. And so for us, the question had always been, well, what is it that we can do? What could bring us closer to the radical innovation, really, that can help to get these children the learning experiences, the quality of education that they deserve? And that took us to exploring the use of virtual reality for education in these really resource-constrained educational environments. And the thinking was really, if you imagine the previous image and the school you saw there, where it really is just chairs, tables, and a black or whiteboard. In a school like that, where they don't have labs for the sciences, students would have to do courses called alternative to practicals, for example, right? Where they would read about the sorts of experiments that they should be doing in the labs if they existed. And so the thinking was, well, what if we were able to equip a room or a space with the kind of tools that would allow us to virtually create the resources that were not available? What if we were able to have a VR lab in a school like that, and we could, create simulations for chemistry labs, for biology labs, that sort of thing? What would that look like? And the idea is that all of the experiences that students are not able to have in the physical world because of the very real limitations in terms of budget, in terms of personnel, and all of that, that we could start to mitigate for that. And so that brought us to this VR for Schools project program that we worked on. And we were fortunate to get some support from UNICEF along the way so that we could go further in depth and actually partner with a local public school in Lagos in Nigeria, work hand in hand with teachers in the school to co-create modules in virtual reality that actually address some of their pain points. So for example, the teacher for mathematics said, I'd really like to find a more innovative way to teach the children about algebraic expressions. For them, it seems a bit abstract. And they're not able to grasp it the way I feel like they could if they had other resources. And so, we would go ahead to create an experience alongside the teachers and the students, actually. So really taking an action research approach where we spent a lot of time in school with the teachers and the students. We also spent a lot of time bringing them over to our lab so that they could play around with the technologies, how I like to describe it, really get hands-on and decide how they think it might work best for them. And then start to build together what, a scenario that brings that particular subject area to life might look like. And then, of course, we would go back into the schools, work with the students testing, work with the teachers testing, take their feedback, and then, come back to the lab and refine it. And what we took in terms of an approach for this, sort of like beyond the research and scientific, was an immersive narrative approach where we utilize peer guides. Because I think for us, one of the core things about using technologies and emerging technologies is that we want children to recognize these technologies as technologies that are reflective of their life and their reality too. Often we'll say A is not just for Apple, it's also for Agbalumo, like of which you would typically find in a city like Lagos. We also utilize peer guides, so a lot of the interactions in the modules would also happen along children who were of a similar age and from a similar background, so that there was that relational aspect to the engagement that we could expect from the children who were participating. And this is sort of like, further on in the journey where we were then going into the school more frequently with virtual reality headsets and getting the children to experience, go through these learning experiences and give us their feedback and then continue to build upon it. And there's a little bit of a slide here just showing some of the methodology around the creation of this, the discovery elements, in terms of engaging with the teachers and the students, the ideation, working with them to figure out the best ways in which we could build so that we were taking all of the considerations of the children and centering that in what we were creating for them. And then also alongside that, as we would create and bring into test, making sure that we were also creating products that were really taking children's well-being into consideration. What were the effects of actually using these experiences in the classroom? Was there any negative impact on the children's health or well-being, and documenting that to go forward? And so far, we have got fairly good feedback from the students. Of course, as you can imagine, there's a lot of excitement engaging with these technologies. They, find it exciting. They find it fun. For the majority of them, it was their first ever engagement with it. And of course, it brings that responsibility to think about, digital well-being for the child. If this is a child's first encounter with an emerging technology like this, what must we make sure that children know going into this? And how can we make sure that the information, the awareness is made available not just to the child, but by extension to their families, to their parents, so that they can make conscious choices for their children. And we're very excited to take this work further now, particularly being able to incorporate more features of AI into these learning modules for children, so that there is a lot more flexibility, that there is the opportunity to personalize learning experiences more and get them to a stage where they're able to engage at sort of like different levels. Because of course, right now it's just a standard product. And if there's variation in learning style, we are not quite equipped to accommodate that. But we hope to be able to shift that a little bit in the coming years. We're very excited to recently have partnered with Nigeria's Universal Basic Education Commission, which is responsible from children from sort of like the first year of primary school through to the junior secondary school years. And with them, we're then going to explore adopting this on a wider scale. But all of the while, we're very fortunate to have engaged with UNICEF with the pilot for their policy guidance in the use of AI for children, and have been able to incorporate elements like that into the thinking and design when we're creating these products. So I just wanted to give you all sort of like a little snapshot of what we're doing with these technologies and some of the ways in which we imagine they can have tremendous impact on the ground in a place like Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. This is amazing, and we are very looking forward to the results. And I give now the floor to Selma, my co-organizer, who is going to introduce the next panel.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you to all the speakers for showing the interesting ways in which both kind of smaller, larger companies are looking at designing to benefit children through new emerging technologies and AI. Of course, we saw research being done at the industry level and in academia as well. There is a lot of work on developing scientific evidence about the impact of AI on children's development and well-being. That's very important to know to help design beneficial technologies and good practices. So I'm very excited to have 3 speakers from academia joining us today to talk about their research on AI and children. And the first person I'd like to invite is Sonia Livingstone, a professor at the London School of Economics in the UK, who is going to introduce us to global trends about research on children and digital spaces with a focus on the global South. Sonia, please take it away.
Thank you so very much for that introduction. That was and I think Julian is very kindly going to share my slides, which would be wonderful. That was quite a grand brief. I'm going to do my best, but I will offer some suggestions as soon as my slides show up. I think they must be coming any minute.
So now I was just showing them before. You couldn't see them?
No, I couldn't. No, but if they're there, that's perhaps fine. It's okay. Then I'll share them, please, and I'll describe them. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Perhaps somebody else, perhaps Vicky, could you just confirm that we can see the slides?
Not yet. No, we can't.
Okay, bear with me for a moment.
Yeah. That looks good.
Yes. Great.
Yes, if you just make them full screen. Lovely, thank you. So I'm talking on behalf of the Digital Futures for Children Centre, which is jointly at the London School of Economics and the Five Rights Foundation. And if you move one slide on, please. Essentially, we work from a child rights perspective. We try to work internationally, as globally as possible. And we are a hub for the evidence that's being done in relation to children's rights, in relation to digital technology. And I thought I would start with something from the Voices of Youth and from the Global South. So if you move to the next slide, please. We are partnering with the Five Rights Foundation and their Global Youth Ambassadors Program. And actually just last week, we joined them in a call to understand what were their experiences of AI. So these are young people aged from about 13 to 22, and they come from all over the world. And the next slide will give you a sense of where they come from and how widely Gen AI is already being used. So you can see on the call last week, I mean, the youth ambassadors are really all over the world, but on the call last week, we had them from quite a number of different parts of the world. And among the questions we asked firstly was which Gen AI are they using? And there you can see that ChatGPT has cornered the market, but there's also Gemini and Claude and a whole set of others. I mean, I think it is fascinating how quickly this repertoire of technologies has become almost commonplace for many children and young people. In the second slide, we asked them to put in a word that captured their concerns or their hopes for the digital world. And as you can see from this, their views were diverse, but perhaps topping the list, information, safety, privacy. And intriguingly, these are all children's rights, as is the other ones there. I think creativity and networking, free speech, participation, a whole range of rights, of course, apply for children. They apply in the digital world, and they especially now apply to the world of AI and Gen AI. I have to say this was an incredibly lively conversation. I wish I could convey more of what was being said, but the sense was, I think, that they were just full of questions, full of desire to explore and experiment, but full also of concerns and a desire to be part of the conversations with adults and with institutions as AI is being brought in. So I was asked especially to speak about evidence, which is on my next slide, please. So at the Digital Futures for Children Centre, we have been working to construct a research database, which can provide a kind of a hub, an open access resource for everyone who is interested to know what is the evidence available about relevant to children's digital lives. I really want to thank and credit my team and colleagues who have been working to launch this database. And maybe just a word on evidence. We have curated the evidence here so that it is being done by researchers all over the world, according to many different agendas, but we have made sure that it is independent, that it is open access, and that it has been, by and large, peer-reviewed. So we feel confident in saying this is a good quality evidence base. What does it tell us about AI and children and their rights? It tells us that the evidence we have available is actually truly limited. Most of the research on AI is not about children at all, so it's not in our database. Most of it is being conducted in the global north. We know much less about the global south, which is, of course, 9/10 of the world's population. So we have included it here. We have sought to include also some research from where we find it in the global south, and that really is our agenda in the future to have more. We have research on children, but not so much that is disaggregated so that we can compare across age or living circumstances or particular needs or vulnerabilities or life context. So I think there's a lot to be done there. And then I think, as you already got a flavour, there is research, there is evidence available on children's use of AI at school in relation to learning, in relation to smart products and play. There's a growing line of research on various forms of AI abuses, including forms of shared child sexual abuse images. There's an intriguing line of work on children's interaction with bots, and including sometimes that have been produced for their mental health or to support them, sometimes more playful. Research on children and their engagement with emotion AI and how the AI can read or understand the child. And also in that vein, research, for example, on how AI can detect when something might be going wrong in a child's life, perhaps if they're having suicidal ideation. And then I would say the last area where there's lots of work, though still, as I said, mainly in the global north, on the idea of AI literacy, on how children themselves are learning to become, to understand and become proficient in this digital age. What does the research tell us? I think it tells us children and young people are learning fast and they're very keen to learn, to experiment. We heard some surprise from our global youth ambassadors that the AI is arriving in their apps, in their services, unasked for, and not always quite clear what it's for and in whose interests it is there. So some doubts also about the idea of kind of AI everywhere and for every purpose. I think there is not yet so much creativity, though children know it can be used for creativity. And there are some gaps in their knowledge that I think research reveals that we need to fill. For example, knowledge about the data involved in AI and collected from them as they use AI, the commercial motives behind the services that they are engaging with, the copyright issues that can trap them as well as infringe the rights of others, and the whole kind of question of disinformation and how to believe what's happening. And maybe one other line of interesting research that I think needs to be hugely more developed is evidence about which tools exist and which tools are working. What kinds of prompts provide useful safeguarding? Which regulations are working and not? When children report or ask questions or make a data, want to know about their data, what is happening? And that kind of takes me to my last comment, really, which is to say something about what do we want to know? At the Digital Future Centre, we're listening to learn from everyone here and others what research is now the priority. And I would urge, when we think about that, to ask questions that are not so much, we have this technology, how are we going to use it, but more questions about what are the problems or opportunities in children's lives for which AI could offer a solution. And it really is the difference between technologies that we're looking for a use and problems that are a part of children's lives. And there are so many where AI potentially could help, but that's not necessarily where we see the development. So I would say the research agenda now really needs to prioritize research grounded in child development, in children's educational agenda, in the provision they need to support the realization of their rights. And that will include research about the wider society, research on what training is needed, what curriculum changes might be appropriate, what safeguarding needs arise. I know these might sound like policy questions, and there's a policy panel to follow, but they are also evidence questions, because we need to identify the problem, the opportunity, the baseline against which we measure change, and we need to identify empirically the shaping factors, enablers, barriers, and so forth. And last but not least, we need to hear the voices and the views of all of those who are involved, most especially children and young people. We've begun that a little bit today, because without hearing their voices and the tensions among the different perspectives, I think it would be very hard to grasp what's working, what could work better, and where further developments are needed. So if you just show my last slide, and I will stop just to show that we have lots of resources we'll keep adding to. And we would love to hear from you about the research agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sonia, for that thoughtful summary of what we know, and then also the posing of such very important questions of things that we need to be looking into more. Thank you for the agenda setting. So next, we're going to hear from Andrea Blasco, Policy Analyst at the Joint Research Center.
Policy Analyst at the Joint Research Center.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Okay. Go
Can
ahead.
you hear me? Good.
Yes.
I also have prepared some slides, and while I fire them off, I want to basically introduce myself. So I work at the European Commission, and I'm part of the Joint Research Center. That is a kind of a department within the Commission, staffed with thousands of scientists that basically conduct scientific research to support policies in many different ways, right? I hope you now also see my slides, and I'm going to start. Okay, and so here the goal was really to try to collect evidence on the impact of large language models on students. Large language models are these kinds of sort of AI models that power tools like ChatGPT or other similar chatbots. So, but let me zoom out a little bit. And so the way we think about AI impact on learning is just as multiple sides to it, right? So of course, there is this impact of how students are using large language models or chatbots at school or in other setting, and how that affect their learning. But there is also a broader sort of question of how AI in general impacts students or children in how they consume digital products, right? What kind of effect it has on their productivity, whether it's a distraction, or even if it affects their mental health, right? So here we're doing studies on both, but here what I want to talk about is just the impact of large language models, so sort of a subset of the problem or the opportunity. And of course, there is a big debate on what are the costs and benefits or the risks and potential for this technology. But this is not the first time like we face this type of questions. So in the 70s, for example, when the new electronic calculator were introduced, there was a very kind of similar discussion on what might be the sort of the benefits for students of having calculators in the classroom, right? And I think that the debate was kind of analog to what we are having right now, because there were advocates of the calculator suggesting that actually students could solve even more complicated problems. So these tools could enhance their learning. But on the other side, there were people that say, well, at the same time, they might lose some skills because they rely too much on sort of the technology to do the computations and not about other tools, right? And I see an analogy with the current discussion on whether using chatbots in education or not. Of course, the big question for us is to try to understand where this new technology can be kind of integrated safely and brings benefit, and where we should instead step in and try to regulate or at least adapt or inform students on how to use it properly, right? And I think we are in this kind of exploration phase right now. So, of course, since most of our research is sort of aimed or informed by trying to influence policy, there are many reasons why one can consider like EU intervention in the market, right? And there are many reasons. Here, I'm focusing just on what kind of behavioral biases could motivate the policy interventions. And so here I make a few lists based on the discussion that is out there. So basically, an intervention could be motivated by the goal of preserving the learning integrity, so avoiding students cheating or other sort of misbehavior, promote autonomy and independence. So make sure that if students use these tools, is also like the opportunity to opt out and use other tools. Like they don't have to basically rely on AI on everything, right? Ensure fairness and equity. So there is a big question mark about whether this is technology that's kind of leveling the playing field or exacerbating the sort of differences in the initial conditions of the students. Mitigate the bias. We know that it's very hard to mitigate the bias in these tools. And then also try to understand how this will influence children's in the future, like even when they go on the job market or in their lives, like more generally. And then there is another issue on like how do we protect the privacy and the data rights of children and people in general. So these are just open questions. There is some work going, but we don't have good answer. What we did instead was trying to start to unpack the effect of students' AI interactions at school. And so this is what we did. So this is a kind of a pilot study that we run in 2 schools. So we basically deployed a lab where we brought computers to the school, and we really wanted to collect data on how the students interact with AI to solve some sort of school problems. Okay, so we recruited different students of different ages, those secondary students, and we developed a sort of an iTutor, and the iTutor had this feature. So it allowed us to store the conversation that the student had. It allowed us to ask questions to the students and collect the answers, and also allowed us to run kind of a small experiments, randomizing students into different groups to really understand how these different conditions affected their interactions and their performance on the task. So the study design in a nutshell was like at the school level. So we started with a teacher workshop, trying to discuss how the teachers have been using the AI or the level of knowledge and understanding of this technology. Then we had sort of these sessions with the students. And then we had kind of a co-design activity where we basically, the students formed groups and discussed how to implement or how to use AI at school in different ways. So we tested a few hypotheses or sort of theories or ideas that we wanted to check. So the first one is, to what extent is useful to sort of develop some sort of AI tutoring or AI chatbots that kind of follow some sound pedagogical approach. So there is a big discussion that one problem of chatbots is that they give you the sort of the answer to your questions right away without giving you the time to even react or reflect. And so we wanted to have a sort of a treatment condition where we kind of mitigate this problem. So what we did was basically an experiment with this study. So 50% of the students were sort of sorted in this sort of AI that we call Socratic. And one example is this, like the children would ask a question, and the Socratic AI, instead of just giving a straight answer, it would guide the student through a series of questions to find the answer for themselves, right? That's why we call it Socratic, because it's loosely inspired to this sort of Socratic method. And then we had as a control, like the regular AI, that as soon as you ask a question, you receive sort of a straight answer to your question, and then you move on, right? We also had a sort of a second experiment, and that was really trying to test this idea that AI gives you solution, but also it gives you some kind of step-by-step reasoning on how the solution came about, right? So we implemented a guessing task. So students had to guess the value of coins in this jar, which is sort of a difficult task, right? So something you cannot get a straight answer from the machine, but the machine can help you to get a better guess. And then we also randomized students into two groups. In one group, they all get the estimate from the AI, but also the sort of step-by-step reasoning that tools like ChatGPT give you when they come up with this estimation. For example, you ask, can you estimate the value of coins in the jar? And then the AI tells you, okay, the jar is of this size, is probably of these liters, can contain as much coins, etc., right? So it gives you some sort of guidance. And most of the times, this is a wrong reasoning, but it gives you an idea. And the other 50% of the students got the AI solution, but no explanation. So just to say, okay, the value is top, like $200, right? But without a step-by-step explanation. So what we found at the end of this sort of pilot experiment? So on one hand, the impact of reasoning. So by exposing kids to the step-by-step reasoning of the AI, we find that students increase their accuracy in their guessing. So just by understanding how the AI came about the estimation, their estimates were better, even though they could have just copy-pasted the solution from the AI. So step-by-step reasoning was useful. And also it affected their perception of AI accuracy. So those who were sort of not exposed to the reasoning tend to believe that the AI was kind of more accurate. So this idea that basically if AI is perceived as a black box, then also the perception of accuracy of the AI are kind of off. So it had these two effects, like increase accuracy and change the perception of how students perceive the accuracy of the AI. For the first experiment, where we sort of varied the Socratic versus non-Socratic AI, so we succeed in having like students more engaged in the task. So the number of exchanges with the tutor was way higher in the Socratic treatment than non-Socratic treatment. They had shorter messages, more like interaction back and forth. So really, we managed to sort of increase the engagement in that sense. But we don't find any effect, neither on performance nor on the students' declared confidence in their answer. So we don't find any sign of effect on learning. But interestingly, those who had experience with ChatGPT or other similar tools perceived that this AI tutor was less helpful. Okay. So just to give you a few takeaway lessons that we learned from this exercise. So the first one is that some learning will come from many different angles. So here we tested the idea of this step-by-step reasoning and exposing children to this step-by-step reasoning generated by the AI really improved their performance and also let them think twice in terms of what is the accuracy of this estimation. And then the second step was when you try to implement some kind of a restricted or guided interactions in AI chatbots, then you face the difficulties of that even if you enhance interactions, students may still perceive that the commercial AI is more effective, it gets them faster, and so may kind of not like this intervention. So of course there is much more, like this was just a pilot, but in the future, we would like to test more pedagogical approaches, like expand the scope of the study. And basically there is this sweet spot between training students to use AI, but also develop AI with some correct principles. And let me stop here, stop sharing. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for telling us about what students think of LLMs. I wonder what Socrates would think. But as we go into now, we'll have Grace Lin, lecturer at Harvard School of Education, MIT. And I just wanted to remind presenters to keep an eye on the time. I know Vicki told us there was a lot extra, but now there isn't. So thank you very much. And go ahead, Grace.
First, I'm going to share screen. Can everyone hear me? Yes. All right. So Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar and for the organizers for creating this opportunity for us to share about current practices. My name is Grace. Thank you for the introduction. I'm a learning scientist and assessment designer at MIT's Teacher Education Program and the Education Arcade. And yes, I'm also a lecturer at Harvard. In my 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about some of my and my collaborators' work, as well as my observations for emerging technologies for children's learning. While AI education and learning about AI is incredibly important, as Professor Livingstone highlighted, I want to focus on AI for learning today, particularly conversational agents. I'm drawing from one of my projects that centers around the use of AI-powered conversational agents, such as this cartoon rabbit that you're seeing on the screen named Floppy. Floppy is meant to enhance parent-child interactions as they read books out loud together. Through our usability and efficacy phase, we have found evidence and signs of increased conversations between parents and children. And we have witnessed how children are becoming more and more engaged, and in some cases even attached to Floppy, to the point of demanding to read with Floppy books that weren't even part of our study. Our work on Floppy is only one of many that are leveraging and harnessing the power of emerging technologies and AI for children's learning. In fact, expert researchers and designers in this space have convened at 2 child-centered AI workshops that my collaborators, whom you can see on this slide, and I have organized at the CHI conference. From the participants' discussion and input, we extracted key principles for child-centered AI. The principles by the experts emphasize upholding children's rights, ensuring safety, and advocating for responsible research practices, such as participatory design and child-centered measurements of system effectiveness. There is also the shared belief that the AI systems we design and build should complement, but not replace, the caring roles of family members and educators. Beyond these principles, I'd like to add a couple more observations. First, researchers involved in child-centered AI work recognize the emotional attachment that children can form with AI systems. My research team and I have witnessed this firsthand, as I mentioned previously. However, on the safety and privacy concerns voiced by the researchers and designers, the potential impact of such attachment are underexplored. AI systems being able to engage in contingent conversations with children is a novel advancement, and we don't yet know their potential long-term effect on children's social development and how these systems can influence human-to-human interactions. Second, most research investigating educational technology, especially with AI, calls for research through design and participatory design, ensuring that children's voice is heard. This is undeniably essential. However, these studies, because of their qualitative and iterative nature, tend to take a more in-depth look at a smaller sample. We have yet to see scaled-up studies and results that can speak to the impact of these work. But I'm actually quite optimistic about this. Increasingly, we are seeing partnerships that may bring evidence-based and child-centered educational technology to a wider audience. My good friend and collaborator Ying, as you can see on this slide, has been working on relevant and timely studies in this area. For example, one of our latest work is examining how children's perception of AI agents may be different based on the newest change in technology, that is, whether the AI agent is able to respond contingently to what the children themselves were saying. Children view AI characters with contingent interactions as being more human-like. Furthermore, this work is done with media character Eleanor from the PBS television show Eleanor Wonders Why, where children engage in scientific reasoning with Eleanor and her friends. So the partnership with media characters like Eleanor points to the potential of the reach of evidence-based designs and enable the study of impact down the line. In closing, I want to highlight a key few points again. Participatory design with children in emerging technology like AI should ensure that on top of caregivers and educators, children's voice is also heard and baked into the technology we build. We should also consider children's rights and design the safety in our work. Finally, researchers working on AI for children's learning should go beyond just the design of prototypes and build partnerships with either other researchers or media companies to conduct effectiveness study that can potentially speak to the impact of our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Grace. Also, Andrea and Sonia for giving us a perspective from academic research into the current and future space of AI technologies for children. And now, as everybody has pointed out, one of the most important voices to include are children themselves. And so we're going to have a second video from a group of children. This one was recorded with 2 students from Nigeria. And so let's listen to their perspectives on the use of technology and their vision about the future.
Hi everyone, I'm Ofem Bosi. I'm 17 years old, studying animal science in the University of Ibadan. And my journey through technology has been amazing so far. I'm conversant with phones, laptops, and I have a virtual reality headset, which I used to create things in the virtual space. I use my phones for research, fun and entertainment, to connect with my friends, homework, projects. And today I'll be answering a few questions with.
Hi everyone, my name is Oluwadini and I'm a mass communication student from Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, and I'm 18 years old. I also use technology in my day-to-day activities. I use my phone, I use my laptop, and I also watch television sometimes. I use different social media platforms to connect with my friends, such as WhatsApp, TikTok, and all of that. I also use YouTube and ChatGPT to learn and just to satisfy my curiosity about so many things. Generally, technology is just like a relaxation point for me. So, Percy, you said the other time that you use different social media platforms, and if you were to create your own social media platform, I'm very sure you have an idea where you want to create it. If you're given the opportunity, how would you create it? Would it be in a robotic form or it would be in a virtual reality form?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So it's going to be definitely virtual reality because I've seen how it works and I really love the idea and the concept. It has a way of immersing you into the virtual world, but then you're still there. It's like you are literally in the same room with somebody that's in America, but then you are just still in your room. So it's not just enjoyable for adults alone, but also for children. Because a lot of children that have issues with the way technology is now. So I just want to make it very enjoyable for everybody. So given that I have this very amazing info about tech now, and I want it to be in the future, and I want it to be age friendly, and there are a lot of issues that children come across these days on the internet and all that. So have you ever encountered inappropriate content, felt unsafe or observed, while you actually wanted more privacy about your online behavior?
Oh yes, I've definitely come across inappropriate content online. I've come across explicit content that we children and growing teenagers should not be viewing at all. I've also felt unsafe online because there are some times where I'll search about a particular product and I'm getting ads every 5 minutes about that product I searched about. Yes, it shows that the algorithm is working, but it just feels kind of weird that someone somewhere knows so much about me or someone somewhere is watching me. It just feels weird and creepy, and that's what has like made me feel unsafe, using most of these digital platforms. Because I've come across inappropriate content and you have said that you want to, create your own digital technology, your own social media app in the future, how should technology be designed, to protect children's rights, such as safety, privacy, equity, and all of that, so that as I have come across inappropriate content, other children will not come across inappropriate content?
Thank you very much to me for that question. So, proper content filtering tools should be implemented so that these children don't get to see explicit content or inappropriate things while surfing the web. And also to curb screen time, they can be task codes, maybe 1 hour into using 1 hour into the space, go to other things and stuff. And that's how I feel like technology can actually be designed to protect these children. So given that know that children come across inappropriate content and we actually want to reduce it. I have this idea in my mind. So how do you think children can help us do that? How do you think children can help create a better world in relation to digital technology and children?
How I feel we children can create a better world through digital technology is by using these digital technologies in the right way. So many children use their phones and laptop in the wrong way. I said before that I've come across inappropriate content, but that is what some other children are actually using this digital technology to do. They are viewing explicit and inappropriate content that are not suitable for their age. Also, I feel like we children should start speaking up about how we feel using digital technologies, the good side and the bad side, things like cyberbullying, how the content of other people influence and affect us. Also, I feel like how to make the world a better place is by allowing we children to be involved in the planning process of making these social media apps. You know that these apps are going to involve children. Children are going to be using this app. Children should also be involved in the planning process of this app so that privacy rights, like you said before, will be involved for the children. We should not just be excluded and it's just focusing on only the adults. Children should also be involved. Children should also be, put in mind in creating those apps, and then the world becomes a better place for us all because the children are involved. Having answered all these questions, I would like to say one thing about technology. Yes, technology is good and it works across all sectors, but we children should endeavor not to be too dependent on technology. Instead of connecting with our friends, we are always on our phone scrolling through social medias and watching funny videos. If we keep on doing this, we begin to lose our touch with reality. So, Okwemikosi, is there anything you would like to tell the world about technology as we live?
So yes, I would like to say one thing about technology, and it is that it is a tool and not a substitute for human connection. Because most people these days literally use technology in place of human connection, which is not meant to be. I should just have an hangout that I'm planning, and then because I'm scrolling through my phone, I'm not able to go for the hangout. And then we have series of cases of self-isolation, depression, loneliness by excessive use of social media and technology, which shouldn't be. We should use technology to bridge gaps and not create them. It is a great tool to connect with our friends. I should be happy I have tech to connect with my friends and not that it will drift us apart. So that's just one thing I'd like to say the word about technology. Thank you very much, Jimmy, for my question.
Thank you, Okwemikosi. Yeah, bye.
It's great to see we're in good hands with our young people's perspectives with Oliwadumi and Opemiposi. And now Vicky is going to introduce our keynote. Thank you.
Thank you, Selma. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Michael Preston, who is the Executive Director of the Cooney Center of Sesame Workshop. Many generations have grown up with the characters, and I think I don't need to tell anything else. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Let me just find my presentation. And this worked before. Hopefully it worked again. Okay, good. Hopefully everyone can see.
There you go. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you. How appropriate and fantastic to follow our two young colleagues from Nigeria whose words really do resonate for me and throughout all the work that we do and I'll talk about now. And thank you so much to the organizers and everyone here. It's fantastic to be able to share some thoughts with you all and build from the presentations that have happened already. So today I'm just going to speak about children as partners in the design of their digital world, a theme that's come up quite a few times already. Again, thank you. It's wonderful to be here as we celebrate the 70th anniversary of World Children's Day. Of course, every day should be World Children's Day, and I'm sure that's why many of us are here. To introduce my organization, the Joan Gans Cooney Center, we're a research and innovation lab at Sesame Workshop, named after the visionary creator of Sesame Street. That's Joan. Our mission is to apply the child-centered innovation and design methods that Sesame has pioneered now for more than 50 years to the emerging media and technology landscape, how we've interfaced with the world beyond Sesame. It all really began with Joan's original research report, which she completed in 1966. And the media landscape has obviously evolved quite dramatically since the 1960s. We still believe that her original ideas expressed in this report strongly resonate today. At our center, we work to inspire a new generation to harness the power of media to support the learning and development of all children and to address the issues of opportunity and equity that remain so profound today. We work with a wide variety and range of people and organizations to help them mobilize research and include diverse children in the design process, which ensures that new products can have a positive impact and serve kids everywhere, or at least we'll get them started on that path. Now, many of us all over the world are aware of the Sesame Street TV show. It first aired in 1969, around the same time that PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service, which is our national public television network, launched with a shared public service mission. So really both of our entities, Sesame Workshop, which at that time was known as Children's Television Workshop, and PBS were a direct response to this idea that there was a vast wasteland of low quality content on television in that era. Sesame, on the other hand, offered a bold alternative representing an innovative and fun approach to helping kids learn and grow. Of course, a lot has changed since Sesame's early days, and what we want for our kids has not changed all that much. I loved how the two previous speakers spoke to what they cared about the most, and I think that's the theme animating us here today. So we want kids to be happy, healthy, well-adjusted. We want them to be socially connected, to be able to learn, to determine their own path, and ideally to be able to contribute to their community in a positive way. The media environment has changed tremendously, but the nature of child development has not. So we must continuously evolve our understanding in how to treat kids ethically and responsibly in this fast-moving and ever-fragmented digital world. More than 1 billion kids globally are online, and hundreds of thousands go online for the first time every day. Yet most technology is not designed for them. It's designed for people, generic people, in other words, adults, even though companies know that kids are on their platforms. Children also are not monolithic and have unique needs, capacities, and goals over many stages of development. They also benefit from social support, initially from parents and caregivers, whereas interaction with digital technologies often occurs in isolation. But over time, it happens within an evolving ecological system that includes connections with friends and expanding circle of influence. At the Cooney Center, we strongly support the idea that policies should reflect the current state of the digital landscape and the reality that many digital organizations are not responsibly servicing or protecting our kids. We also believe that any good policy revisions should be supported by research and reflect a thoughtful analysis of the current marketplace and its practices. Changes are particularly needed because many children use platforms that were originally developed for adults, as I mentioned earlier, and they use data in ways that are not well understood by the general public and may be harmful and/or exploitative of children. We need to recognize the role that children play in the digital world and, frankly, bring them into the process. Today's creators must assume that their digital product or service will be used by children in some way. Kids are often early and eager adopters, but they are not well supported in these environments, especially if they were not designed with them in mind. And this creates a disproportionate burden on kids who are much more challenged to figure out how to navigate safely while having fun. We believe that kids should not only be consumers or users of digital products, but rather they should be design partners. Their unique perspectives are, by and large, not considered in the development of products they will use, but their ideas can help us better understand the problems and the opportunities that need to be addressed in the digital world. So I want to talk about play, collaboration, creativity, and well-being. So we know from 50 more and plus years now, 55, I believe, of Sesame Street, that it's possible to center children's learning, development, and equitable experience in product development, and to be successful on the market at the same time. We must build a positive digital world for kids together. A positive digital world is one that's safe, inclusive, and thriving. Designers must minimize risks to privacy and safety, create environments for wide accessibility, consider developmental appropriateness, and design for inclusion. At the thriving level, designers should empower children to find meaning in digital encounters by enabling play, collaboration, and creativity, and by promoting well-being as an outcome. The goal of my comments today is to offer our perspective for the broader digital landscape and the importance of not only laying a strong foundation for protecting kids and empowering parents and families online, but also driving a movement where companies consider the unique needs of kids in design as they create new designs from the onset. The Joan Ganz Cooney Center's work is centered on an approach that puts children at the center of design, is evidence-based, and considers how to balance keeping kids safe while also allowing them to explore, learn, grow, develop resilience, connect with others, find belonging, and feel empowered and competent. We need to systematically include kids as partners in our work, engage in methodologically sound research, and tests in the field. We must continuously learn from kids where they play and learn to better understand their experiences and what they have to say. These insights should be baked into the design of their digital environments. Now, in recent years, we've been dedicating more and more of our effort to equipping and empowering designers of digital experiences for children to include well-being outcomes as part of this practice. And we believe that focusing on a well-being by design approach is an efficient and effective way to reach our shared goal of improving the online world for children. So I'd like to share a few examples briefly of our work in this space from research-based frameworks to learning experiences for adults and actual co-creation opportunities with children. So please visit our blog if you'd like to read about any of the things I have shared on the screen here. Okay, kicking off, Adam, who spoke earlier from LEGO, mentioned RITEC, the Responsible Innovation and Technology for Children Initiative. This is an organization, as he mentioned, that was founded by LEGO Group and UNICEF, and it brought together a group of international stakeholders to ask children what well-being meant to them, formulate and test well-being outcomes in digital play, and develop tools for businesses and governments to put the well-being of children first. As part of the project, research was conducted with 300 children from 13 countries, along with the analysis of survey data from 34,000 children across 30 countries, including the US. Using this snapshot of children's perceptions, they developed a well-being framework, which includes outcomes like safety and security, but also creativity, social connection, diversity, equity, inclusion, and empowerment. The RITEC project partners then tested this framework to understand, how different digital play experiences could impact children's well-being outcomes. The project aims to provide businesses with access to evidence-based tools that will enable design choices more likely to promote the well-being of children. Over time, we expect this will create a more child-centric and sustainable model of digital innovation in the future. I'm pleased to be able to share today that the brand new RITEC Design Toolbox, which provides designers with practical tools for incorporating support for children's well-being into their design process. It provides an overview of how to design for children's well-being in digital play, including a list of relevant game design features. The toolbox is intended for design professionals in the online gaming industry who are creating digital play experiences for children. And this includes different design professions, product, visual, UX, and research, as well as management levels and trust and safety professionals supporting the design process. So please look for this online on the UNICEF website, and you can download the toolbox or reach the website using this QR code here. One facet of the toolbox I'd love to highlight here is the game design features and children's well-being card deck. This is one of the most exciting components of the toolbox. The card deck, which was developed with game designers for game designers, offers practical tools for incorporating support for children's well-being into the design process. Designers can navigate it in 3 ways. First, they can use the Experiences tab to select one of the 8 player experiences to learn what, why, and how to design for it. We'll also include quotes from the children about this well-being dimension. Then they can use the Categories tab to select specific game features they want to create. These categories were identified in the RITEC research. And clicking on a given category will give you a list of game design features that can contribute to children's well-being. They can use the Features tab to see do's and don'ts for designing this feature based on the RITEC research, as well as screenshots of practical examples, as well as quotes from children. The second example I wanted to provide is our Well-Being by Design Fellowship. It's a new professional learning program for designers and producers of interactive children's technology and media that we offer as a free service for our community. In our first year, we selected 10 fellows who shared a passion for creating great digital experiences for young people and children, to have them participate in our inaugural program and promote well-being by design as an aspirational and also accessible goal for industry professionals. We're currently in the process of selecting our second cohort for next year, and we'll announce that very soon. Our fellows meet regularly as a learning community over a 4-month period to learn about well-being frameworks, including RITEC, and approaches that can help them integrate well-being principles into their products for children. Together, they workshop ideas informed by these frameworks and apply them to their work on digital products for kids. Our team facilitates consultations with industry experts and educators and creates space for collaborative learning opportunities as the fellows make progress on their respective designs. We've published our first cohort of fellows' work on our website in case studies that explain their approach and highlight the new features that will support well-being in their digital products for kids. We also offer our fellows the opportunity to workshop with their emerging insights with a parallel cohort of teenagers in our youth design team. With representation from across multiple time zones, this diverse group of young people brings their perspectives, questions, and interests into rich dialogues with the fellows. The results of these intergenerational conversations are valuable for everyone involved. I've included a couple of quotes, one from an adult designer of our past cohort, as well as one of the young people who participated in the youth design team. We found that fellows establish a better sense of ground truth based on the first-person experiences of young people in the program. Our youth designers broaden their understanding of how research, design, and product development unfolds in professional settings. And last, and also very important, lots of great new ideas came out of this work for both sides. The last project I'd like to highlight today is our new sandbox. It's an innovation lab that we support here. And one of my favorite things working here at the Joan Ganz Cooney Center is our opportunity to advocate in every space for including children's voices in the design of digital products that are made for them. It should be no surprise to anyone here that one of the most delightful aspects of this work is how children frequently surprise us and challenge our adult ideas about technology. In our Sandbox Innovation Lab, we provide designers and teams with the opportunity to co-create new digital products together with kids. We also help situate their work in the knowledge base, pull from developmental psychology, the learning sciences, human-computer interaction, and more. So why do this? I think we've already heard this many times from previous speakers, but children have unique insights to offer, and the only way you can find out is involve them in your work. There are special ways to create the conditions under which this work can be most effective, to feel democratic and participatory, where kids are able to join in. And also a very important point is that they also have a benefit. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot they can learn and a lot of growth and development of agency and sense of self-efficacy from this work. And so then we are highlighting new ways to engage kids. We will help product developers know that their product can be engaging, how the impact will look, and also that they'll be engaging diverse audiences from the get-go. We can select participants for this work who map to the audiences they hope to reach and make sure that they're able to serve them well. So the Sandbox is a consultancy for design to answer pressing questions for kids learning. And we work with product teams, I said, and we work with industry leaders. What I wanted to share here, though, was one of our more recent sessions. These are actually in progress right now in a public school, an elementary school in Queens, New York City. And I would, this is a real-time kind of experience that I'm sharing here. These are young kids who are co-designing an AI storytelling tool across multiple sessions in the course of their school day. And you'll see in the photo on the left, a group of kids are developing the words that they want to put together as a prompt to an image Gen AI tool. And then the second photo, you'll see the teachers holding up that card while they input those words and create a variety of images that are going to go with the story that the group has already agreed that they want to tell. And so this is a very hands-on, tactile activity to help kids understand how these words are interpreted by the machine and their opportunity to continue to change the words, change which ones are shared and so forth, and see what comes out. And I'd like to say that, as we've heard from others, the opportunity around AI inspires a lot of feelings that are both optimistic and hopeful, as well as very anxious and sometimes fearful. I think we have a really good reason to experience this full range of emotions. Unsurprisingly, kids are likely to be interested, they're more likely to be curious, and they're eager to try and explore new tools. And today, kids have experienced AI already in many aspects of their life, whether they're aware of it or not. And so in our co-design sessions, where we're really explicitly sharing that this is an AI experience, we want them to understand what the nature of the tool is and how to use it. One participant in a co-design session we did for an AI math tool said, "I trust AI more than people," which to me was a unique insight about children's belief and likelihood of trust, of course, and they're also then their innate vulnerability in these spaces. So I thought this would be fun to share this example from our blog, recently posted by a PhD candidate of Jason Yip, whose University of Washington Kids Team Lab is a frequent collaborator of ours. And previous folks in today's workshop have talked about the various purposes of using AI for learning and so forth to further things that will further children's own goals. And I was, as a group here that is focused a lot on creativity and helping kids develop their own self-confidence and their own sense of agency and creativity, we were interested in this topic especially. And I thought it was interesting. I encourage you to go read it, but this idea that kids, over the course of multiple sessions of learning and discussion and tinkering with AI tools, can really understand what the systems can do, what they're capable of, and why they work the way they do. They can also understand that their own role, their own creative process, and how to really articulate their goals and be in dialogue with the machine to accomplish their goals. To understand the domain, what they're working with, and what they're trying to accomplish in the context of the sort of dialogue between person and machine, and then really to kind of see how their own intentions can be expressed, and to really kind of hold steady to their own goals and make sure that they're enacted in a particular activity. So closing out, I just want to say a few more words about the opportunity to include kids as partners, not only your audience, but truly alongside you in the creation of products. If we know that if we don't consult kids when we make digital products for them, we know they're going to use them in ways that we maybe not expect or ways that we would like to help support or correct. But if we involve them in the process and we design with them and for them, we can create much more exciting and relevant and engaging products for them. And we can also be much more mindful of wrong turns and missed opportunities for impact as well, and create more new innovative things that will contribute in unique ways to their learning and their well-being. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Michael, for the excellent presentation. Such an amazing, children are everywhere in your work, in the designs, in the toolboxes that you develop, etc. So I think we have a lot to learn from your work, and I encourage people to your website to visit and use all these tools. Now I want to give the floor to Judith, my co-organizer, who is going to introduce the policy panel. Judith, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Okay, so now we move on to the policy panel, which will give us an outline of some current policy practices on a global, national, and regional level. To the speakers, might I remind you to please keep to time. We are really struggling here to get everything in our schedule, but let's go ahead. I'm very pleased to first of all welcome Stephen Roslu, who is the Digital Foresight and Policy Specialist at UNICEF Innocenti, the Global Office of Research and Foresight. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Judith, and thanks everyone for this amazing session. One of the consequences of speaking later in the session is that much of what one wanted to say has already been said. And I really don't see that as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing, that we're aligned in terms of what we're seeing and what are some of the needs. So thank you again for the opportunity. I'm a digital policy specialist. I've been looking at AI in children for a few years now, and I've worked with a number of you, with Judith and with Vicky, and with others in developing a resource that I'd like to just remind everyone of. In 2019, we were looking at the fact that AI is very much in the public discourse. There were national strategies being developed. There were corporate ethical guidelines being developed. but really not enough attention given to children as users of AI systems and the impacts on their development. And so we developed, like I said, with many colleagues here, a policy guidance or a guidance for policymakers and companies on how to create AI policies and systems that are more child-centered. So I just wanted to put it out there. It's a resource that's been used to develop case studies, like with MEC 3D in Lagos, or with Vicky and the Honda Research Institute, in how to, in their case, develop child-sensitive or child-friendly interactive robots. So we have the policy guidance, we have case studies, and we also engaged young people, 14 to 18-year-olds in 5 countries on AI, and that informed the guidance. So please, hopefully the link gets put in the chat. But what's interesting, I think, with the engagement with young people was what they said, obviously, but also we published the process and the workshop methodology, so this work can continue. I saw recently a survey done with about 1,000 children in the US on AI, and it came out just 2 months ago by the Center for Youth and AI, and it made me reflect on the difference between when we consulted children in the US and 4 other countries 3 years ago. So, number one, in the US, the recent study, about half the respondents are using AI systems several times a week or more. So back in 2022, this was pre-ChatGPT, AI was in your apps and in your services, but not kind of a tool that you went to. We asked children, what are you concerned about back then? And in the US, children said that we might become bored because everything will be done for us. Now, one of the children is saying, I really fear that I won't have a job when I'm old enough to work. The children in South Africa, when we interviewed them, said they worry about AI in work because youth unemployment is an issue there. But now this is something in the US also. And a question we didn't have to ask in 2021 was about AI relationships. So it was asked, and the US kids said that about half, 46% said that friendships with AI are acceptable, and about 44% unacceptable. So I just say this all because it shows that the landscape is changing. Children's lives will be more and more infused with AI directly or in the background. And we need to keep engaging and listening to this interesting situation where they are both active users, excited about the creativity, and we've seen that from a few studies, at the same time worried. So I wanted to just say 3, I think, quick policy priorities, let's say for the next 5 years, to take us to 2030. Again, some of these have been said, so I'll just run through them quickly. But number one, at the policy level, and this would complement everything that we've heard today, is to really bring children into the global AI governance ecosystem. We see a lot of attention on AI governance. We still really do not see children either recognized enough as a stakeholder group or involved in participation. So design partners in policy development, not just in product development. There's some great work going on. The Turing Institute is doing amazing work, and the Scottish Children's Parliament. So there are models that we can look at for engaging children and learning from them, the work that Lego and the Right Tech Project has done. So it's not like this cannot be done. It needs to be done a lot more. We have initial models. A lot more needs to be done on how this can, what are these models and how can they be used by governments around the world. And I think a really nice challenge for us isn't just to think about how we engage children in a meaningful, ongoing, systematic way. But this is a challenge of how do we take what children tell us and actually have them impact on policies? And I think there's a lot of interesting work to be done there, not just kind of informing product development, but policy development and what works and what doesn't. So children in the global AI governance ecosystem. Number two, better research, evidence, and foresight. And that's been said well. I'm adding foresight because research is critical, but we know research also takes time. And the technological and AI landscape is changing all the time, and children are using it today. And so we need to also look ahead using foresight tools. And UNICEF is doing this with a youth foresight network. We also have or undertaking research at the moment, just very light research as part of our Disrupting Harm global survey on how children use AI and their perceptions of it and their concerns in countries that don't usually feature. So Armenia, Morocco, Tunisia, Colombia. So we're looking forward to publishing those findings early next year. And then the last point just to say is on multi-stakeholder collaboration. And obviously no one country, no one region, no one company can do this alone. It's been a big year for the UN, or at the policy level. The Global Digital Compact was signed. We also have the high-level advisory board body on AI, presented a report called Governing AI for Humanity, presented it to the Secretary General. And we were really glad to see children mentioned in both of those. So there's work to be done. The challenge now is how do we bring these stakeholders together? And industry is absolutely critical here. I think far more critical than in other multi-stakeholder contexts. Industry are the ones developing the systems and have the compute and have the data. And so absolutely need to be part of the conversation. But it also is where big responsibility lies. And so I wanted to just end by saying we're working with industry, and it's a real pleasure. We'll continue to do that. We're also working on a toolkit for conducting child rights impact assessments in digital products and the digital environment, which will have huge relevance for the AI space. So that's coming out in a few months. And we really would encourage everyone to use that as they kind of try to understand these big questions that Sonia mentioned that we're grappling with as well. The impacts, and Grace said, the impacts on children, on their development, on the future of their work, and the opportunities. So thank you. I'll hand back.
Stephen, thank you so much for that really impactful talk and for really highlighting those 3 core policy priorities for us to consider. Okay, so now we move on to the next speaker. We would like to welcome Spiros Dukakis, who is the head of the Institute of Education Policy at the Ministry of Education in Greece. Spiros, over to you.
Thank you, Judith. It's an honor for me to participate in today's event and to contribute to an ongoing international discussion on the responsible development of AI and the digital tools that use it, aimed at protecting and promoting children's rights. Technology has become an integral part of children's lives. It shapes their experiences, provides opportunities, and presents numerous challenges and concerns. As the president of the Institute of Educational Policy, the scientific and research body of the Greek Ministry of Education, Religious Affairs and Sports, responsible for primary and secondary education and teacher training, and also as an assistant professor in the field of digital technologies in education at Ionian University in Greece, I will try to share Greece's approach in promoting a safe, inclusive digital environment that aims to enhance the abilities of our children. In Greece, we have made progress through strategies to successfully connect education, technology, and children's rights. But at the heart of our efforts is safety, specifically digital safety in our case, and the adoption of ethical principles for the use of artificial intelligence in education. A key step was the revision of curricula to include topics related to responsible navigation in the digital world, privacy protection, and understanding the ethical implications of technology using AI. From primary to secondary education, students are working to identify online risks, make informed decisions, and use technology creatively. At the same time,
we provide teachers with the training and resources they need to effectively guide students. We have already conducted 2 specialized seminars and translated to UNESCO and EU guidelines into Greek. Furthermore, we are actively participating in all discussions, not merely to show our presence and interest, but to gain insights for improving the framework. We have also prioritized the development of educational tools and materials that empower children. These tools are designed to enhance learning while ensuring privacy and security, reflecting our belief that technology should serve the needs of children. One such example is a national project aiming to transform conventional curricula into open source interactive digital environments. This project uses AI to dynamically adjust educational content, ensuring it is inclusive, engaging, and accessible for all students, regardless of background or ability. Thus, AI is used to create personalized learning experiences tailored to each student's need while ensuring the protection of learners' data. In our approach, we also listen to children's perspectives. How do we achieve this? Through initiatives like the Skills Labs and the new curriculum titled Active Citizen Actions, where students take action to contribute to achieving the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. We give students the opportunity to express their concerns, share their visions, co-create solutions, and take an active role in both local and international communities, as well as in the digital world. Their perspectives help in designing tools and policies that are not only effective but also aligned with their realities and aspirations. I could argue that the responsible development of digital technology with AI requires a collective commitment to 3 fundamental principles: collaboration, transparency, and sensitivity. I have the honor of representing the Greek Ministry of Education, Religious Affairs and Sports at the second working conference regulating the use of AI systems in education, held in October in Strasbourg. We participated in discussions aimed at shaping a legal framework that ensures human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, while preventing risks like bias and privacy breaches affecting students. Sessions focused on inclusion, children's rights, and sustainability. From the meeting, it becomes clear that collaboration is necessary between governments, organizations, the academic community, and civil society to create ethical frameworks and share best practices. Because AI and transparency go hand in hand, transparency in how AI works and how data is used can build trust and accountability. Most importantly, we must remain sensitive to the unique needs, vulnerabilities, and perspectives of children, ensuring that their well-being is at the core of every decision. Artificial intelligence holds immense potential for advancing children's rights, from creating safer online environments to enhancing educational equality and access. In Greece, we are committed to harnessing this potential by prioritizing inclusion, ethical practices, and child-centered approaches. Events like today's are invaluable opportunities for knowledge exchange, idea sharing, and building collaboration that will help shape a better digital future for our children. Thank you for the opportunity, and I must say that we all look forward to your future initiatives on this important topic. I would like to thank Mrs. Harisi for organizing, inspiring, and inviting us here. Thank you also, Judith.
Spirit, thank you so much for that intervention and for sharing the work that's being done in Greece, particularly focused on digital safety and children's well-being. And now we move to the last, but certainly not the least. It is our pleasure to welcome Francisco Marmolejo Cosio, a Harvard Research Fellow who is involved in various educational programs in Mexico. Francisco, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Judith. And thank you so much for the invitation, Vicky. As was mentioned at the beginning of the session, I think one of the benefits of being at the end is that so many incredible and wonderful things have been said with so much food for thought that I'll probably keep my perspective short to potentially summarize. I want to actually for this to have a bit of an external perspective. So my perspective is that I actually come from an applied modeling, optimization, theoretical computer science background. And over the years, I've slowly found my research honing more to applied domains. And I want to take the perspective of an applied modeling researcher and how over the past we've been able to bridge research and policy more generally, and how this could potentially apply to the context of children's rights and AI technology for children, as we've seen today. And I want to give a big disclaimer that actually this is my research and my work has been more broadly focused on AI and algorithms working for the benefit of underserved and marginalized communities. But so many pieces of this conversation today have actually really brought food for thought, and what I believe is a call to action for other researchers like myself to bridge some of these, to bridge research and policy within the domain of AI for technology for children's rights and children's education and development. And so the context that I wanted to bring for this is that the bulk of my work bridging research and policy falls under the purview of a nonprofit organization by a long name called Equity and Access in Algorithms, Mechanisms, and Optimization, or EMO for short. And this is an organization that I've been involved with now for 6-7 years. It originally began as a reading group of computer scientists called Mechanism Design for Social Good, but under the fundamental mission of improving access to opportunity for historically marginalized communities. And what I like to think makes this community unique is by creating AI for good for marginalized communities, but also by marginalized communities. And I really want to emphasize the second point on by, because this co-creation of technology is something that I've really taken away from all of our discussions today. This idea of including children's perspectives in the creation of technology, this idea of including marginalized communities' perspectives on technology, given the social context in which children are brought up, in which children develop, in which children become functioning adults and then give back to their society, is fundamentally important in the creation of AI technology in the future. And one of the big reasons for this, of course, is to not exacerbate existing digital divides, which we already have. I want to emphasize that, for example, the students which collaborated from Mexico, from Maquismon in San Luis Potosí, my home state of San Luis Potosí in Mexico, were unable to watch our session this morning due to the fact that it was rainy in the Huasteca Potosina, and therefore there wasn't access to internet right now this morning. I found out through separate means, through WhatsApp, through other means, but essentially I think this is a very salient point to the fact that we need to understand the fundamental realities that are being lived by children in different locations and adjust our research process to these realities with the facilitation of policymakers. And I want to really emphasize that as an applied modeling researcher myself, this is actually an exciting research opportunity in itself. The work that we end up doing ends up being trying to find a model. It's a tightrope between finding a model that's expressive enough that it can actually be of some use to a given community, but also not so complicated that we can't actually do anything with it, or not so simple that we actually miss the mark entirely. And for all of this, one of the most important components bringing this glue together for work that is actually of impact in schools for children and in the global South is policymakers, and this kind of trifecta between academics, impacted communities, and policymakers that I think brings about a huge amount of new research opportunities in the future. And I just want to end that this is something that we've been doing for a while now at EMO, at our research initiative, including this past year where we actually held our flagship computer science conference in San Luis Potosí, Mexico, where in fact we've always had a huge emphasis on including the voices of indigenous communities in particular in Mexico. 3 years ago, I founded a program called the International Summer of Science, where indigenous women from Mexico propose topics of relevance in their communities, and we pair them with researchers to create seeds of research projects that can be triangulated to their communities, again, from their voice. This is going back to the point of creating research and work and future technology that is for impacted communities, but also by impacted communities, and giving them a seat at the research table. And I think that there's definitely a huge potential for going forward to create academic opportunities and partnerships with policymakers that give a voice to these impacted communities, to students, to children in the creation of technologies that are going to impact their future going forward. And with that, I just wanted to, again, and thank you so much for the invitation, especially to Vicky Harisi, who's a fellow at the Berkman Klein Center this year. It's been really wonderful to hear all of these perspectives, and it's incredible food for thought in the future that I'll take back to my research community at EMO and to many of the impacted communities that we work with in Mexico. Thank you so much.
Francisco, thank you so much for that and for reminding us to really go back to the basics and back to the people who matter. Creating for communities by communities has really resonated with me. Okay, so we move on speedily and I'll hand over to my co-organizer, Selma.
Hello, and I'm happy to introduce the final look from around the world at children's experiences. This time, we're not hearing from the children themselves, but from their teacher, Chris Sotos, from the Arsakio High School in Patras, Greece. He's going to tell us about their practices on digital education.
Hello from the Arsakia schools of Patras. Our schools are located in Greece, so we would like to share with you the experience we gather concerning AI in school environments from our corner of the world. Our students have been utilizing AI in various applications in the classroom. Generative tools have found their way in everyday tasks they have been going through, while at the same time it has been a quite helpful assistant when working on STEM projects. On the verge of this new age, children are quite often fascinated by computer intelligence. The implementation of AI feels natural to them as it has always been there. They tend to rely on it in regards to tedious tasks of the past, and they dream of a world free of problems thanks to technology. At the same time, though, there have been concerns. Students sometimes feel like the AI has suddenly crossed the necessary boundaries. Even though they are surprised by its capabilities, they cannot but be creeped out. What they claim is that if the AI respects our rights and is used solely for humans' capabilities to be better, then that's the AI we want. After all, you cannot stop the world from advancing further. That's all from us here in Greece. We wish all participants good luck with the webinar and happy Children's Day to the world's future in every corner of the globe. Thank you very much for having us.
And with this video from the Greek school, I think we came to a closure of today's session, and we couldn't close the session without some words from the ITU, the hosting institution. And for this, I would like to invite Fanny Rotino, who works at the ITU for many years now in children's protection. And Fanny, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vicky. And it is really my honor and my privilege to close today's vibrant and extremely insightful discussion on children's rights in the area of artificial intelligence and emerging technology. And I really want to reflect on the incredible scope of knowledge and perspectives that was shared by our panelists today. So from the really innovative and also insightful contributions of researchers and industry leaders to the inspiring voices of you young people, today's session has, in my view, really exemplified the power of inclusion, collaboration, and the intersectoral and multi-stakeholder character of child rights in the context of the digital environment and more specifically artificial intelligence. We've explored today evidence on AI and emerging technologies, not little surprising pieces. In relation to children's rights, we have looked at their, young children's requests on what AI should and what it should not do, what it should be, what concerns are. We have discussed the ethical considerations that indeed should guide us in the development and implementation of AI tools, but also services that are used by children. So not only those created for them, but really those used by them, which are far more, as we know. We have also looked at policies that are needed to ensure that technology works for and not against children's rights. And most importantly, in my view, we've seen the importance of indeed including children in these discussions, hearing your voices and prioritizing your perspectives as we chart the future of digital environments. At the ITU, we believe in a holistic approach to children's digital empowerment, child rights in the digital environment. We are committed to creating a safer online world, safer online spaces, advancing here initiatives that both protect children's rights in that digital environment, but including both the protection and participation angle of children's rights indeed. We are promoting approaches, tools, and policies that empower children to thrive in a connected world, including taking an active role actually in shaping it. And we had a lot about different sectors and organizations' efforts to work with children, meaningfully work with children over long periods of time. And we also at ITU work not only with governments, the ICT industry, also parents and educators, we have heard from them, but also with children themselves, both in creating the necessary frameworks on the policy, regulatory and legal side, but also building the necessary capacity with all the previously mentioned stakeholders in order to make sure that these opportunities are actually fully being used or can fully be used by children. In our work, this entails fostering collaborations with diverse stakeholders, and I think the panel today showed that there's so many different angles that need to be looked at and different stakeholders that to work together. So we work with governments, academia, industry, and the civil society to ensure that every child, regardless of their background, has access to safe, inclusive, and empowering digital opportunities. One such example is our work on the POP initiative, Protection Through Online Participation, in partnership with actually many of our speakers today, which shows that the online environment, including AI, can itself become a source of protection for children and young people as they seek, but also offer support systems and tools, including through AI, to their peers online. To close, I believe that today's webinar really underscores the importance of celebrating World Children's Day by highlighting the role of technology we have had as a key actor in this specific discussion in shaping a better future for children. But beyond celebration, it is also a call to action, a reminder that the work we do today lays the foundation for a world where every child can harness the potential, wherever they are in the world, of digital innovation safely and responsibly. So I would invite us all to leave this session inspired and energized to continue this really crucial work, and that together we ensure that AI and digital tools and services are not just innovative, but inclusive, ethical, safe, and firmly grounded in protecting and uplifting the rights of every child. So I would like to thank all our panelists, our dear organizers and colleagues, and my colleagues, and most importantly, the children and young people whose voices continue to guide us in this endeavor. So let us carry your perspectives forward as we build a digital future that truly works for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fanny. And on behalf of my organizers, I would like to, Selma and Judith, I would like to thank all our panelists today, the children who prepared the videos, the people that worked with all of you, have worked for many years with all of you. And I would like to close with the wish of happy World Children's Day, and what Michael Preston mentioned beforehand. Let's have Children's Day as every day to be Children's Day. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learned something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. We invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the eShop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for good.
The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia, and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.